you. Another word we like to say out here in Harambe is Twende, and that does mean let's go. Well, Jamo, everybody, once again, and good afternoon, and welcome to Kilimanjaro Safaris here on the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. My name is Max. I'm going to be your safari driver and an animal spotter for today. Before we get started, just a couple of reminders for your safety. Your hands, arms, feet, and legs must remain inside the truck at all times, and everybody must remain seated. Parents, that does include your children as well, they have to stay seated. If this is your first time with us, or even if you've been with us before, above you is that conveniently placed animal spotting guide, which will help you identify some of the animals that we may or may not be able to find out there. Can't guarantee we'll see every single animal on that spotting guide above you. However, it is my job to try to give you the best of views as possible for those animals we do happen to encounter. And so looks like that word has given us the all clear, so we are good to set off. Now we're going to be starting off here in what we call the Little Aturi Forest. A lot of the animals here like to use camouflage to their advantage. So it might be a little bit harder to find, but we'll head on in and see exactly what animals are hanging out here in the Aturi. And now starting off with our first animal over here on our right hand side. Now with those brown and white striped legs, this animal may look like a zebra. However, the animal is actually not a zebra. It's called an okapi, and they're the only known relative of the giraffe. Now the brown and white stripes on the animal are not only there to confuse us, but they do have a practical use behind them, and they're called follow me stripes. Out here in the forest, it does get pretty dark. Makes it very hard for a lot of animals to follow each other. That's where those stripes come in to make sure the young can always follow their mother, because again, those white stripes are a lot more visible during the dark. So again, it does play into why they are called follow me stripes, and simply put, those stripes are there to make sure that the young are always able to follow their mothers by using the stripes. You might spot this next animal coming up very shortly. It'll be on your left-hand side here, not in the first yard, but in the second yard. Is the largest animal we're going to find just here in the Aturi Forest. On your left, we do have a black rhino coming up very shortly here. Black rhinos are the smaller of the two species of rhinos found out here on the reserve. They weigh upwards of around 3,000 pounds. Now, yes, this rhino on our left is by himself. However, he's not sad, he's not lonely, he likes being by himself. And that's because black rhinos are a very solitary animal. The only time you ever find them with their families is whenever they're younger. That's for safety reasons. Beside that, they do kind of prefer to be away from other animals, and just ultimately prefer to be away from us humans too. And over on our left is an antelope here. Tannish animal with the white stripes, those are greater kudu, a tallest standing antelope found here in the Aturi, standing around 5 feet tall. They weigh upwards of around 750 pounds. They are still considered a medium-sized animal, even though they do surpass that 700-pound mark. A lot of antelopes that are found here in Africa do get a lot larger than they do, and so hopefully we'll see a couple of larger ones a little bit later on. Right, tapping our way over here into the Safi River. A lot of the animals here in the Safi River like to use these watering holes to cool off. And it looks like this time we're going to be starting off with a bird species over on our right. These white birds here are pink-backed pelican. They do get their name from those pink colorations on their backs during mating season. These birds only stand around 3 feet tall. However, they do have an incredibly large wingspan of over 9 feet in length. So they still have some pretty large wings for a bird who generally does not really stand that tall. And it looks like all the way up the stream on the left there, we do have some Nala hippo coming up here. Now, Nala hippo do weigh upwards of around 3,500 pounds. And for an animal that does spend a majority of its life underwater, on land, Nala hippo reach a top speed of around 20 miles per hour, which is pretty fast for an animal of this size. Speaking of underwater though, Nala hippo can hold their breaths underwater for around 8 minutes at a time. The reason why they're able to do this is because Nala hippo are related to dolphins. They're actually cousins of each other. Again, hippos are a land mammal, which means they breathe oxygen like us humans do. However, they do share that same breathing technique that animals like dolphins and whales have, which allows them to hold their breath underwater for long periods. And over on our left here, we do have some Nile crocodile, large reptile found here in all of Africa. They do grow to be about 16 feet long, and can weigh close to a little over 500 pounds. there's Nile crocodile on the left. We're not really moving around that much, and that's because whenever Nile crocodile do move, they use a lot of energies. They'll kind of just sit there throughout the day soaking up all that sun. The problem is, though, Nile crocodile are a cold-blooded animal, which means they don't want to get too hot. So if you ever see a crocodile with their mouth open, that is actually how they cool themselves off. We are about to make our way out into our savanna. Now, being our savanna is so large, we have split it up into two different regions, the eastern and western half. Out here in our western half, you can see we changed a lot in terms of scenery, lost a lot of that shade, gained a lot more sun, and the grass out here is going to be a lot shorter. That is mainly due to a lot of the animals that call the savanna home. A lot of Africa's most famous animals that do include giraffe, zebra, and elephant like to call the western savannas out here home. So we'll head on in and see which is more famous, more common animals we can find out here in the West Savannah. And it looks like this time we are going to be starting off one of Africa's more famous animals. Coming up here on the right with these very large horns, these are Ankole cattle, also nicknamed Watusi cattle. Now the horns of this animal do grow anywhere from 3 to 4 feet in length. However, those horns are hollow on the inside. So they are very fragile, so this animal's rarely ever going to use those horns to attack. They're kind of more of a defensive animal. Ankoles also do have a very interesting digestive system. They actually have 4 separate stomachs that their food all will pass through before it fully digests. Being they do have that 4-stomach system, it will take Ankoles anywhere from 3 to 5 days to fully digest their food. And so again, they do kind of have to plan to eat for days coming up ahead because again, it'll take them very long to digest their food. And over on our left here, let's see, got some African painted dogs running around here. Now, even though these dogs are very cute and cuddly, they are the single most successful hunting animal found here in Africa, as they can catch their prey on average around 90% of the time without fail. Now, they are what we like to call a crepuscular animal, which means they're more active at dawn and dusk during the day. Unlike nocturnal animals who are asleep during the day and are active at night, crepuscular means that they kind of sleep to avoid all the hot parts of the day, that we're able to be hunting out when it's a little bit cooler out. And now look at these Ankoles here. Now, the horns of this animal are kind of used more as an intimidation technique. They're kind of used more as a way to show that they look dangerous. However, in reality, they're not that aggressive of an animal whatsoever. Now, those horns do actually have a practical use for them. Inside of those horns, they are not entirely hollow. They actually have a honeycomb-like structure on the inside. So what these Ankoles will use horns for is like a built-in radiator to cool themselves off. Whenever Ankoles get hot or cold, they will circulate that blood up into the horns. The air around it will cool off or heat them up. And by doing so, they can reduce their body temperatures or heat them up by using those horns like a radiator to kind of cool themselves off or heat them up instead. And so we have a nice look at one of these Ankoles coming up on our right here. So this is going to be one of our females here, one of our older girls on the right. And let's go nice and slow here so that way I can get a nice look at this Ankole. And just see her really big horns on her as well. Now, a lot of the animals that are usually found out here in the West Savannah, especially around this time, do like to kind of hang out on this far end here. So let's maybe go see a couple of them coming up. And looks like over here on our right-hand side, top of the hill, we do have some wildebeest. Wildebeest are the largest land-populated animal in the world by terms of number. They herd in groups a little over 1 million of them in a single sitting. They are, of course, known for stampeding, which does work as an alarm clock as a way to alert others. In case if any of them happen to spot something dangerous, they will start running, which will send them all running, which is, again, how they keep each other safe. And coming over here on our left is definitely one of Africa's more famous animals. We actually have 2 animals out here. The first one is that smaller animal that has tannish with the big horns. These are elands, largest antelope found here in Africa, weighing around 2,000 pounds. They jump about 5 feet in the air. We also do have some giraffe up here on the left. These are Maasai giraffe. Giraffe are the tallest standing land mammal in the entire world. They do stand anywhere from 18 to 20 feet tall. They do spend roughly 24 hours out of the day standing up. Giraffes spend about 20 hours out of the day eating, and they'll only sleep for a total of about 5 minutes at a time. Giraffes take what's called a micro nap. So they'll go to sleep for about 5 minutes, giraffe will be up for a couple hours and take another 5-minute nap. In total, giraffe will only sleep about 30 minutes in a 24-hour period. Again, in general, they just don't really sleep that much. That's just for safety reasons more than anything. Now, looks like I am able to spawn an animal on our left. He was just walking away, unfortunately. There was a mandrill on our left here. I don't really think he'll be coming back here, unfortunately. Yeah, looks like he was just kind of ducking himself behind the rocks there. Now, we have kind of exited our plains of the West Savannah, and we made our way over here to our more kind of foresty areas of the West Savannah. Over here, there is a completely different set of animal species that like to hang out over here versus over in the plains of the Savannah, so I don't really know if I can see anything just yet. Now, for a majority of the animals that are found here in Africa, they are herbivores, means they only eat things such as leaves and greens. However, plants in general are made up of water, and there's not really a lot of nutrients with water. So in addition to a lot of the plants that a lot of the animals out here eat, they do have to find other foods to eat that contain their nutrients. And so once we cross this bridge, I'll be able to check the other type of food these animals like to eat, because again, these plants are just simply not going to provide a lot of nutrients to them. To a lot of these leaves and greens, and some of these animals eat this next type of food coming up here. Surrounding us on our left and right hand side of the truck here, this is red clay. Now, some of the animals out here will eat this red clay. Think of it like a multivitamin. It contains a lot of the important minerals and nutrients a lot of the animals that are found out here need. Now, the problem is, though, even though red clay is very nutritious for a lot of the animals, it is actually kind of hard to come by, especially if you're in the plains of the savannah. This red clay is really hard to come by, especially if there's not really a lot of hills or ridges nearby. So a lot of the animals that are found in here do have to resort to other types of food. For example, the next thing they'll eat is actually palm trees. Now, inside palm trees, they contain palm oil. Think of palm oil kind of like the liquid version of that red clay. It does contain the same nutrients they need, just in liquid form. The problem is, though, out here in Africa, due to bad harvesting techniques, a lot of these animals are losing these palm trees, who again rely on them for the nutrients. Especially out here in the U.S., pretty much a lot of the food that we buy out here, especially the processed food, does contain palm oil in it. Now, there's nothing really wrong with palm oil, however, it is kind of bad down to the way they harvest it. So if you're looking for a way to build support, a lot of the animals are found here. Everybody does have a phone on them. Download the palm oil scanner on your phone. It has a little orangutan on it. What that palm oil app will do is actually scan the back of all of the food you buy, and it'll let you know if the food that you're buying contains good source or bad source palm oil. And if you happen to purchase food that does have good source palm oil in it, it'll actually give you a coupon for the food that you're buying with that food. So it is a great way not only to save money, but also a great way to be able to save a lot of the animals that are found here. So download that palm oil app to help save some of the animals out there today. And now, friends, looks like we have found ourselves some greater flamingo coming up on our left here. They are the greatest because they are also the largest of the flamingo species. A group of them is conveniently called a flamboyant. Now, yes, flamingo are a pink bird. However, they do not hatch a pink bird. They hatch a light gray bird with dark gray feathers and legs. It does take flamingo a little over 2 years of their life eating shrimp before they're able to show any of those pink colors. So yes, they are that pink bird. However, by eating shrimp is how they get and maintain those pink colors to them. Friends, have made our way onto our eastern savannah, and welcoming us here on the east savannah on our left, we do have some white rhinos here. Give the structure a little bit more space here. Now, white rhinos are the larger of the two species of rhinos found here on the reserve. They weigh upwards of around 5,000 pounds. And unlike black rhinos, who are very solitary, white rhinos instead are what we call a family social animal, which means they prefer to be in large groups. The reason why they prefer to stay with each other is because white rhinos do have very poor eyesight. They can only see about 5 to 10 feet in front of them. So if they were to separate, it would make them a lot more vulnerable to a lot of animals out here. So that's again why they prefer to stay with each other. And over on our right, we do have some ostrich. Ostrich are the largest bird in the world. They do stand around 9 feet tall, weigh upwards of around 250 pounds. Yes, ostrich are a bird, however, they are not a bird that can fly. They are a bird that's plainly built for their running speed. Ostrich can reach a top speed of around 40 miles per hour when running. They do use their wings like planes do to kind of stick them on their sides to change direction very quickly. They also do have two very long kind of claws in the front of their toes, which they will use as a way to dig themselves in the ground to make them move a lot faster. And we do have a nice view of these rhinos here. They are just kind of making their way back out for the night here, so in a little bit of room. You may notice with these rhinos to see, especially, you may notice they kind of point their ears forward. That way they're able to listen to what's in front of them, so they can tell if they're getting closer or not to it, because again, they can't really see. And let's go over on the left, walking around. There's a cheetah in the yard there on your left.
Oh, a cheetah. There it is.
A cheetah are the fastest land mammal in the world, reaching speeds of around 60 miles per hour in under 3 seconds. Now, unlike most cat species that are found here in Africa that do hunt at night, cheetah instead hunt during the day. They actually see a lot better during the day, unlike most other cat species who see a lot better at night. Now, being that cheetah do hunt when that sun is going to be directly in their line of sight, they do have built-in sunglasses. That way they are able to see what direction they're running in. Underneath each of their eyes, going about for their eyes down to their mouth, cheetah have little black stripes that work just like sunglasses do, as they do absorb the sunlight out of their faces. That way they are able to see what direction that they are running in. Now, more often than not out here in Africa, you actually won't find cheetah just kind of running in the plains and the savannah. You actually will kind of find them hanging out in trees. They do this for a couple of reasons. The first is for safety reasons. Cheetah will climb up in the trees to be able to escape away from other predators. But it also does give them a good lookout vantage, as they're able to look out at everything that's below them. That way, in case if they are able to spot anything dangerous, they're able to jump out of those trees onto the backs of those animals, and then that pretty much the hunt will start after that. And it does look, unfortunately, I'm not really able to see much animal activity in the copy on our left here. Looks like this animal might just be out doing some hunting right now, so we're probably going to skip by this copy area for now, because I don't really expect to see much animal activity here. And let's go over on the top left-hand side of the hill. There are some warthog up there. Towards the back left-hand side of the truck. Warthog are the largest burrowing animal in all of Africa. Yes, they live in burrows. However, they do not dig those burrows. They steal them from other animals. Warthog's tusks are used more for fighting instead of digging, so it explains why they have to find those burrows, because they have no way of physically digging them on their own. And over on our right-hand side there, we do actually have a water buck. That is going to be our last animal in the East Savannah. Now, as their name suggests, water buck do like to be around water, and that's because they're actually considered to be one of the only waterproof land mammals in the entire world. Underneath that animal's skin, they produce a very greasy red oil. When they get that oil on their hair, the animal's hair will become waterproof. They will not get wet whatsoever. Even if they were to submerge themselves underwater, the animal's hair will stay completely dry underneath. They are mainly hunted out by animals like cheetah and lion, and as you know, like most cats do, they don't like water. So if these water buck ever fear they might be getting hunted, they will run into the middle of those rivers and lakes, and because those cheetahs and lions will follow them in, they're able to use the water like a force field to keep all the other animals out. Now, friends, to enter onto our final part of the reserve today, the Magadi Glen. This is where our warden likes to call home. It's also home to one of the cutest animals found here on the reserve. These are Nigerian dwarf goats. Now, yes, these goats are small, however, they are quite mighty. They produce a very rich and sweet milk, which the warden will collect and sell in the community of Harambe to help out economically. Now, if you think that these goats are cute, and you want to get a little bit of a closer look for yourself, there are tons of different animal experiences around the Tree of Life where you can actually check out some more animals. Definitely recommend go ahead and follow and path up the Tree of Life, because again, there are tons of animals to check out. And now, friends, unfortunately with that, though, that is the end of our safari for today. So I do want to thank you again for joining me out there and got to see all the crazy cool animals that do call this place home. Now, of course, there are tons of things that you can do at home to help support these animals. Things, for example, such as reduce, reuse, and recycle. You can recycle all those old electronic batteries. They contain coltan, which can help reduce deforestation. You can reduce the amount of paper products you use, such as napkins, paper towels, and paper bags. If you couldn't tell, trees are a very important resource to a lot of these animals. And of course, reuse. Things like reusable water bottles and reusable bags when shopping can reduce the burden on the environment, which in return will reduce the burden on all of our animals. And now, friends, I do want to thank you again for joining me here on Kilimanjaro Safaris and got to learn a little bit how to discover, observe, and protect all the animals here on the Harambe Wildlife Reserve.